So Cameron, you're playing Starfield, eh?
Yep.
Yep. You're on that Starfield shit. I'm
Yep.
I'm on that Baldur's Gate shit. So the LU boys, folks, they're gaming right now. Not right this second, but
Yeah. No, not right this second. Yeah. So I would obviously also be playing Baldur's Gate if I had a better PC, but thankfully, good news is that I will be able to play that sometime this year, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'm unfortunately living on Planet Xbox, which I know is an unpopular take, but the only few people that I ever play online with are Xbox guys, so that sort of decided
Xbox
it for me.
fanboys.
And but yeah, so Starfield came out last night, and I've been playing for a few hours, and it's good. I wouldn't have done the early access thing, but Microsoft sent me a gift card for like $25, and it's on Game Pass. And so basically, for like $8, I got early access. I was like, all right, I can do that.
How did you get the $25 gift card?
I don't even remember.
Huh,
I just saw that I had it. I saw that I had it in my on my account, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Because I was going in to request a refund for something else. I don't even remember what. Because I don't really play games much, and so I bought a game, and then I played for like 45 minutes, and I was like, this sucks. I'm so mad that I just spent $70 on this and requested a refund, and then I was like, oh, I have this like $25 gift card. So, but yeah, I'm like probably 4 hours into Starfield, and like have barely touched the main quests, which is sort of what you do. And I mean, I don't know. I think some of the initial reviews are a little silly, And I've only been with it for a few hours, but like for companies to be giving it like a 7 out of 10 is like pretty fucking nuts. Considering like, dude, I spent like a couple hours with the newest Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and like I could not have been like less excited about a video game. It was like, I loved Breath of the Wild, but it was like imagine 5 years later, and in between Breath of the Wild and now, like Red Dead Redemption's come out, like all these games that are just like unbelievable have come out. And Nintendo's like, cool, we're going to put out Breath of the Wild again, except instead of, this thing being the, now you got to build your own hang glider, but you have to do it. It's not, you know what I mean? And like,
honestly, like I got like 25 hours, I think, in total into Breath of the Wild recently. Yeah. That was like this year. And I was just like, I might not play this game again. It's kind of...
I really liked Breath of the Wild, but again, like I've played a lot of other stuff since then.
The thing is, I played it after Elden Ring, and what I remember when Elden Ring came out, everybody was like, "Yeah, this is just like this is a lot like Breath of the Wild, but more like an adult game, and also like with like way better controls and handling. Obviously, it's a FromSoft game,
right?"
And like, dude, trying to do the horseback in Breath of the Wild after Elden Ring, which has like the best horseback gameplay ever.
Yeah.
I was just like getting so mad because the horse, like, you're trying to run from something that's like killing you, and then the horse will see a tiny little rock on the ground, and be like, I'm going to stop short and like kick back, and then you're just gonna get blasted by like some like ancient machinery, like projectile. It's like, okay, this sucks.
So yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. So like I really liked Breath of the Wild, and I played through that game and did everything, right? And it was fun. But then like you said, so like other open world games have come out that clearly learned a lot from Breath of the Wild, but are also coming out on like better hardware. And I don't know. So I played that game, and I was like, this kind of sucks, and I stand by that. Like, I just think it's kind of bad, like Tears of the Kingdom. And I know there's a lot of like Zelda and Nintendo fan people out there who are like, no matter what the game is, they'll just be like, this is a fucking best, and like,
Yeah, see, I also have a big problem with Nintendo as a company, just because they're like litigious as fuck.
Yeah,
like there's that like story right now of this guy who already went to prison for like jailbreaking Switches.
Yeah,
and now that he's out of prison, Nintendo is like putting their like they're like just like twisting the knife by garnishing his wages for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
that like he also owes them $25 million, which I mean, $25 million, I mean, that's like a fucking fart in the wind for Nintendo, you know what I mean? Like they're just making a point of this guy. Like, yeah, you've already gone to prison for jailbreaking and selling jailbroken switches, which have not really harmed our bottom line. But now also for the rest of your life, we're going to be garnishing your wages.
Well,
which
they've got
so
a long
disgusting.
history with legal battles. You know that the character of Kirby is named after a lawyer, right?
No.
So
is that real?
Yeah, and I'm gonna forget specifics, but so basically, when Nintendo was first, really getting big with video games, though, because they've been a company for a long time. They made like playing cards and shit and pachinko and whatever. Yeah. But so they started making video games, and obviously one of the original IPs is Donkey Kong, which was, the classic Donkey Kong is you're playing Mario and you're jumping up to try to save Peach, and Donkey Kong's the gorilla up there, whatever. And so, is it Universal or MGM? Who owns King Kong?
I'm not sure. Isn't it Nintendo? Nintendo owns King Kong. Sorry. Yeah. I think that's Universal.
Warner Bros.
Oh, it's Warner Bros. Okay.
It's at least Warner Brothers now. I don't know. So Warner Brothers owns King Kong, and they saw the success of Donkey Kong. And Warner Brothers, along with some of the other big movie studios at the time, were like considering getting into video games because it was like this new profitable thing.
Yeah.
And then they saw that there was this Donkey Kong character who's like clearly, an ape of King Kong, no pun intended. And they were like, "Oh, we're gonna soon into this little new," because Nintendo at this point was like an upstart, young, small company. Mm-hmm. And like, we're gonna sue this company for copyright infringement for this game that they're putting out. Not to mention the fact that when Donkey Kong came out, there was like a huge wave of Donkey Kong clones from other companies. That game was just like, it changed everything in video games. So they sued them, and Nintendo hired an American lawyer because they were being sued in American copyright court. And his last name was Kirby. And I forget what his name was. Let's see. Yeah. John Kirby Jr. And so he was their defense lawyer, and he successfully defended them. Oh, and it was Universal Studios at that point. Okay, yeah. So I thought it was Universal. I was surprised to see.
I feel like Universal's been bought by Warner Brothers.
That must be it. So right, because the Universal monsters are like that's like the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, John Kirby defended Nintendo successfully, and frankly, it seems like it was like a pretty cut and dry case of like, clearly Donkey Kong falls within the realm of parody, and there's a certain amount of legal protection there. And so whatever. So they were working on this other new character, this like little pink guy, a few years later, and basically
sucks up everything.
If they'd lost this court case against Universal, it probably just would have ended Nintendo as a company. They didn't have the money for that. It would have bankrupted them. And so that's another example of the then big dog company being like, we're going to make a point and just fucking, we don't need the 100 mil, but that'll fucking wreck these people, and then we can move in and make video games. But Nintendo won, and so then they named Kirby after John Kirby. And it's just funny to see the parallel there. Anyway, the whole reason that I mentioned Zelda in the first place is IGN gave that game a fucking 10 out of 10. They gave Tears of the Kingdom a perfect score. And it's literally, at best, that game is like a DLC for a game that came out 7 years ago or whatever. And again, admittedly, a game that I had fun with, but they just did like a palette swap. It's the same map. They added, and people that love the game will be like, "Oh, well, you can go in the sky and you can go underground." It's like, fucking cool, but there's nothing up there. It's you know what I mean. It's just like it's boring. It's just not a fun game. And I'm not some like graphics obsessed guy, but like I've had more fun in the first 3 hours of Starfield, literally just fucking around. Like I'm just talking to people, doing little fetch quests, just like getting a few levels under my belt. I haven't even done anything cool. I've been in like 2 gunfights, and I've had more fun than I've had in the same amount of time playing Tears of the Kingdom. So like, anyway, I think it's a fun game. And I know you're loving Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate's like probably already a top 10 game all time for me. I'm like 40 hours in.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you to have to make the life-altering decision of which waifu to take, Karlach or Shadowheart. Mm-hmm.
Who says I'm going to take either one of them?
Yeah, I mean, you might go with one of the fellas like Gale,
Yeah, but aren't there also other romanceable female characters?
Yeah, there's the lizard lady, Lae'zel. She's the Githyanki.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that.
She's a mink. She's just straight up, her character is like, I want to fuck you.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been seeing some trailers and stuff, and I feel like she might be the one for me. And then isn't there like a dark elf later that you can get down with?
There's other people too, and like sometimes like if you don't get somebody in Act 1, I think they can join your team in Act 2. I'm still fucking in Act 1. I'm like 40 hours in.
Yeah. I mean, the game is supposed to be. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'd be, and I'm enjoying Starfield, but if Baldur's Gate was out right now on a system I could play, I'd be playing that.
So fucking good.
It is
the
way
shit
more
that happens in this game is ridiculous.
Yeah. It looks awesome.
No. But anyway, we got some pages of notes to do for this episode, so let's start it.
Okay.
So, and stop me if you've heard this before, and a first for Left Unread, we will not be doing the episode that we said we were going to do.
I know, and I actually didn't know this until today. I will be doing the episode I said I was going to do.
Okay, yeah.
Not this
and
week.
Then
And frankly, I said I was going to do it like 4 weeks ago, so it's not like I can wag my finger.
Yeah. No, so the reason that I called an audible for this was because, folks, we're diving once again below the waters of the North Atlantic. Because Vanity Fair released this massive expose into OceanGate and its CEO, Stockton Rush, that immediately I became obsessed with everything about this case again. And I just had to do an episode on it. Because it also there's a tangent at the end of it that I was keyed into from this article that I need to discuss as well.
Okay.
So without further ado, folks, let's venture all the way back to June of 2023 to the story that captivated the nation. The doomed submersible Titan that set sail from Canada to view the wreckage of the Titanic in the North Atlantic Ocean. Much like that ocean liner, the submersible disaster was years in the making and helmed by a man that refused to listen to warning after warning about just what he was heading into. And, like basically everybody else in America, and I imagine the rest of at least the English-speaking world, Cameron and I were completely fixated on the story when it happened.
Oh, yeah. This was...
dude,
we were obsessed with this story, dude.
And so was everybody else. Dude, the entire
there were so many
internet...
takes on it because it was like a there was that really tepid, like surface level, media take that was just like, oh, it's a tragedy. But it was interesting because I think this is one of the first that I can think of, like major stories like this, where there was legitimate and really public pushback against that narrative. Instead of everybody just getting on board with it, which I think, even 10 years ago, you probably would have seen a lot more people just being like, oh, it's a tragedy. It's not funny. We shouldn't. There's a legitimate case to be made here that it was like good and right to fucking roast these assholes. And again,
dude,
we made the
people
point...
were just like, choke to death, dude, like half the country was just like, this is a tragedy, and half the country was like, send more billionaires, send more, dude.
Right. And again, I think we made this point then, but the kid who died,
I felt real bad.
Sorry,
about
we
that.
we are sorry about that. The rest of these fucking assholes,
these rich fucking old cunts, dude.
Ooh, it was juicy.
Let's get some more Titans going down there. Let's just fucking jam these things wall to wall with billionaires.
Send a rescue mission. Same type of sub.
They had an older sub. Send that one down there.
Fuck it.
But dude,
pack them into a steel drum and just weight it down with rocks.
Yeah, dude. And if for some reason you've forgotten just how nuts this was, like fucking like CNN and shit had the oxygen counter at all times during the week that the sub was missing. They had that like oxygen counter on the screen with like the hours.
Oh, the most morbid
would run out.
Fucking thing I've ever seen was the CNN oxygen counter. Because those motherfuckers, and obviously we know this with the benefit of hindsight, but if you go back, and Evan has it marked here, if you go back to episode 87 of the show, and even before, because I think we were talking about it before, but like, we thought these people were going to be dead. You know what I mean? Everybody was saying that. Like, there's no fucking way these people are going to survive. And so to have this counter on there that's like an oxygen counter, it's like, so what do you hope? I mean, the best case scenario, okay, is that they just were vaporized instantly, which is what happened, okay? And that's a good thing.
Which is obviously what happened,
And that's a good thing, frankly. Like, do I mourn the loss of these idiots? Not really. But I also didn't, like, want them to be stuck in a tube at the bottom of the ocean, like slowly dying of pressure and air loss. Like that sounds. Yeah. And so CNN's like, come on, we're not finding them. You know, we're not finding them. You know, it's literally
like, these dudes
worse.
Have been dead.
I would rather find a needle in a haystack. You know what I mean? Like this is so impossible to solve that the notion that we're all just sitting here waiting for when it's like there's no way they're still alive, like fucked up. And anybody that's like, oh, it's hopeful. No, you're not. No one's hopeful. No one who's not fucking and here's, completely mentally incapacitated is hopeful that these people are gonna fucking survive. And oh my god.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, like, you know, so there's, like, the terminally online people, like Cameron and I, who, like, are just joking about this nonstop. But then, like, also, like normies, like, you know, you're like, my mom was just, like, constantly watching, like, CNN, like, looking, like, with the counter on it. Like, you know, my family members are all constantly posting, oh, God, please protect these men and all this shit. It was just like, dude, the fucking nation had submersible hysteria. And, well, I'm here to reinduce that in all of us, at least for the next hour.
Yeah, let's try to recapture the magic. I mean, I can feel the excitement bubbling up inside me. So, Evan told me that we were
much like the oxygen bubbles in your blood. If you rise to the surface,
I know, I've got the left unread bends. So, Evan told me we were going to talk about this today, but I didn't realize until I opened the notes that he had, like, completely pivoted and written a whole episode about it. So, let's do it. I'm fucking ready.
All right. So now back in August, Vanity Fair released a long-form piece on the disaster called "The Titan Submersible Disaster Was Years in the Making. New Details Revealed" by Susan Casey. And as I said, reading this immediately sent me back into that mindset of when the actual disaster was occurring, and I was hooked again and need to share this with all of you, dear listeners. So I'm going to read... So a lot of this episode I'm going to be reading from this and another article. They are insanely long articles. They are such good reads. I really, really recommend, especially this first one. It is a long read. I think it took me like an hour or something like that the first time to read it. But it's great. I highly recommend it. But I will be reading a lot of passages.
We'll put links to the articles in the show notes.
Yeah. All right. So reading from the start of the article here. 41.73 degrees north, 49.95 degrees west, North Atlantic Ocean, June 18th, 2023. Fate cleared up the weather, blew off the fog, and calmed the waves as the submersible and its 5 passengers dived through the surface waters and fell into another world. They entered the deep ocean's uppermost layer, known as the Twilight Zone, passing creatures glimmering with bioluminescence, tiny fish with enormous teeth. Then they entered the Midnight Zone, where larger creatures ghost by like alien moons. 2 miles down, they entered the Abyssal Zone, so named because it's the literal abyss. Deeper means heavier, pressures of 5,000, then 6,000 pounds per square inch. As it descended, the submersible was gripped in a tightening vice. Maybe they heard a noise then, maybe they heard an alarm. I hope they watched the abyss with awe through their viewport. Side note, that's the one right next to the toilet. Back to the article, because I'd like to think their last sights were magnificent ones.
Right as they're sitting there just like... Turn around.
Sorry, I had the I had the ribs and the brisket last night.
A magnificent deep sea ghost. Look at... Oh, it's a kraken. Like, dude, that's how I want to think of it. I hope they were magnificent, yeah.
Yeah. So back to the article. As the world now knows, Stockton Rush touted himself as a maverick, a disruptor, a breaker of rules, so far out on the visionary curve that, for him, safety regulations were mere suggestions. If you're not breaking things, you're not innovating, he declared at the 2022 GeekWire Summit. If you're operating within a known environment, as most submersible manufacturers do, they don't break things. To me, the more stuff you've broken, the more innovative you've been. Again, my note, I think you can call imploding breaking, so good job,
Yeah,
Stockton.
he's an innovator of people. He's successfully innovated multiple individuals and innovated himself.
He innovated their blood into a fucking boiling mist inside of a submersible.
He's a real innovator in the field of turning people into like a fine uniform paste.
Yeah.
And just letting them be distributed to the four corners of the world.
Yeah. Oh, so back to the article.
In a way, they'll live forever, as food for phytoplankton. And they've probably already made their way up through the food chain a couple times by now.
Yep. So in a culture that has adopted the ridiculous mantra, move fast and break things, that type of arrogance can get a person far. But in the deep ocean, the price of admission is humility, and it's non-negotiable. The Abyss doesn't care if you went to Princeton or that your ancestors signed the Declaration of Independence. If you want to go down into her world, she sets the rules. All right, so back to my words now. This whole thing right here to me is one of the reasons I'm so drawn towards the story. After the Reagan Revolution of the 80s, everything in this country, in the Western world, has just more and more been hollowed out by neoliberalism. And in this hollowing of all the Keynesian fabric that once held the U.S. together, this whole maverick mindset of move fast and break things has become the name of the game, especially in the tech world. And in the tech world, maybe that kind of mindset can, I don't know, be not so damaging unless you're Elon Musk with Teslas that just run over children when you try to put them into autopilot. Mm-hmm. But, for, maybe just making a website, sure, move fast, break things. And if you do break something, it's just the code and not, the bones being turned into fucking paste inside of your passengers.
Can I make a brief aside on the subject of self-driving cars? Just because I've been seeing a lot of talk now that, like, I just think it's so funny, right? So we live in a country that has moved away. We pioneered cross-country rail, right? Back when that was new technology. And I think that's truthfully one of the greatest things industrialism ever did. Was rail travel. I think that's great, right? And I'm really sad, and I think most people should be sad that, this country in particular has not kept up with the trends in that, because I think so much of our, not even just like our carbon footprint, but just so much of the space in this country is devoted to cars, right?
Yeah.
But everything's shifted towards cars, away from rail, especially, in the state where Evan and I live, traveling by rail is an absolute fucking nightmare. And so now we've got these self-driving cars coming along, and there's all this concern and these legitimate issues with the ability of self-driving cars to function properly on public roads. Children. And there is a legitimate movement to just build like a separate set of roads across the country to enable these self-driving cars to function safely. And it's just like, what about the fucking trains?
Yeah.
That's just what trains are. And they're not even as stupid and expensive. Just build more train tracks.
Yeah.
And we can have high-speed rail. And it would be great. It's like a self-driving car. But the infrastructure for it is already sort of there. And we could just have it. China has it.
Yeah.
The UK has it.
Yeah.
So much of Europe has it.
Nope. We got
to build new roads for these stupid fucking space cars.
But
anyway, sorry, I digress. I'm so mad about the fucking cars.
I know, but so for the move fast and break things again, it's maybe not quite such a good idea when you're going down into something as brutal and unforgiving as the deep sea, which is making things work in the deep sea is like more difficult than going to fucking space because of the pressure. So just look at the inside of the Deep Sea Challenger, which is James Cameron's specifically designed deep sea diving submersible.
I'm looking at that right now.
I have it right in the article for you, or the
notes.
The notes.
Great.
Yeah. So he helped design it himself, as he is one of the world's leading authorities on deep sea diving. And then look at the janky and ridiculous Titan. For our listeners at home, if you can safely do it again. We don't really want another incident here, but as long as you're not driving...
Unless you're in a self-driving Tesla.
Yeah, then
please,
you're going to die anyway.
I mean,
yeah.
Stop masturbating, which is what I know you're doing in your self-driving car.
And Jaying yourself off in there.
Stop jaying yourself to the big O. And take a quick break. Wipe your fluids off yourself. And give this a Google.
Regain your composure.
Yeah.
And
swallow the whole load, which, I mean, that's what we all do, right?
Yeah. But, dude, look at the difference of these two things.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
Look how janky.
But here's the thing. Even for somebody who's just like a stupid, tech-obsessed fucking capitalist like Stockton Rush, it's like, even if your only reaction to these two things is like, that bottom one looks like a lot more fancy and expensive and better.
Yeah.
Like,
the bottom one has a chair.
Yeah.
The top one is the inside of a septic tank, bro.
Yeah, and the bottom one, it's got all these tanks and gauges, and you'll notice it's also much less space, probably because so much of it is devoted to reinforcing and making sure that it's structurally sound.
Yeah.
It's got
a seat. It's got a chair.
They've got oxygen reserves. They've got probably fire. Oh, I see a little fire. They've got fire suppressant. They've got all sorts of shit in there. Stockton Rush, it's literally just an aluminum tube with a little fucking portable DVD player and an Xbox controller.
And he's got a keyboard as well. He's got a keyboard.
And there is a shitter in there.
Yeah, there is a shitter. Yeah. Maybe James Cameron just wears a diaper. I don't know. But anyway, like that.
Dude,
just
honestly,
the difference.
Do you think James Cameron wears a diaper to go underwater?
I mean, it doesn't look like there's anywhere to go to the bathroom. Like, what happens if you really have to piss when you're down there?
Yeah.
It's either that or like a catheter, dude.
I'm imagining this would be like a really...
Imagine him pissing into like a 2-liter bottle.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's got a piss jug and then he like hits like turbulence and splashes it all over himself. He's like, oh fuck, every time.
Or he's got his jug of Mountain Dew on one side and his jug of piss on the other and accidentally swigs the piss.
Yeah, he's got his bottle of
gamer fuel.
Schweppes ginger ale and his fucking hot frothy piss.
Yeah.
Every time I gotta pick a different soda.
I gotta remember which side I put that on.
Now, which one of these is my mellow yellow?
Which one's my squirt? I only drink squirt, alright? Get rid of that fucking starry shit. It's only squirt.
Dude, I only drink squirt, dude. I only drink squirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
by waves of silver foam. There's diamonds here I belong, where drums of passion set my heart on fire. Wind, sing me a song of flaming love and mad desire. Oh, my love, am I dreaming? I hear you. Oh, my love, I have waited so long to be near you. Once I went away. We're from two different worlds, that's what they said. Ooh, here's what they say. I'm home, my love, I'm home. There's Diamond Head. Oh, my love, am I dreaming? I hear you. Oh, my love, I have waited so long to be near you. Once I went away. We're from two different worlds, that's what they said. Ooh, here's what they say. I'm home, my love, I'm home. There's Diamond Head. I'm home, my love, I'm home. There's Diamond Head. The sound of the sea surrounds me. The sound of the ever sounds
Okay.
All right, so continuing in the article, and the ocean's rules are strict, befitting the gravitas of the realm. To descend into the ocean's abyssal zone, the waters from 10,000 to 20,000 feet, is a serious affair, and because of the annihilating pressures, far more challenging than rocketing into space. The subs that dive into this realm, there aren't many, are tested and tested and tested. Every component is checked for flaws in the pressure chamber and checked again, and every step of this process is certified by an independent marine classification society. This assurance of safety is known as classing a sub. Deep-sea submersibles are constructed of the strongest and most predictable materials, as determined by the laws of physics. In the abyss, that means passengers typically sit inside a titanium or steel pressure hull forged into a perfect sphere, the only shape that distributes pressure symmetrically. That means adding crush-resistant syntactic foam around the sphere for buoyancy and protection, to offset the weight of the titanium. It means redundancy upon redundancy, with no single point of failure. It means a safety plan, a rescue plan, and acute situational awareness at all times. It means respect for the forces in the deep ocean, which Stockton Rush didn't have. Now back to my words here. The author of this article had apparently been following OceanGate for years and was well acquainted with the ticking time bomb of the submersible over 5 years of researching and reporting on her book, The Underworld: Journeys to the Depths of the Ocean. Time and again, this author was warned about the submersible from research ships, during deep-sea expeditions, in submersible hangars, and at marine science conferences. This is not even an open secret in the community, but apparently an object of paramount concern. This author even had a troubling encounter with the company in 2018. And, like, dude, this shit that she says that Stockton Rush does in this article, including at one point pretending that the submersible is classed by putting the decal of the classing body onto like literature about the sub, and they had to like threaten to sue him to take it off. He didn't say it was classed, but he put the decal of the classing authority.
Oh my god, this dude is literature. Such a fucking punk,
dude.
He really was. He was just like every step of the way. He's like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, dude,
and it's like,
he's like a fucking child, man.
Is that the guy you want to go under the fucking ocean with? The guy who's like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, because like all these loser billionaires are the same guy, so they think he's cool.
I guess that's true. Yeah, they're probably like, oh, he's a real visionary. Firm handshake, look me in the eye, and
now I'm gonna put my son in here with me.
Get in here, Jimmy. We're gonna cram in here and shit in a big tube until we get mulched into paste.
Don't drink the fucking squirt, That's the captain's.
They're all labeled. I don't want you accidentally drinking your mother's. Every man drinks his own woman's squirt.
So the submersible was made of filament-wound carbon fiber, an unpredictable material known to fail suddenly under pressure. And you will find no more pressure on Earth than as you descend into the ocean. The community was in disbelief. These are my words. So like Stockton Rush had built, even at one point, a 1/3 scale model of the Titan in 2015 and lowered it into a pressure chamber. It imploded at 4,000 psi, equivalent to 2,740 meters. It failed when the goal was 4,200 meters of pressure, or 6,000 psi. He might have changed course then, Casey writes, stood back for a moment and reconsidered, but he didn't. Instead, OceanGate issued a press release stating that the test had been a resounding success because it demonstrates that the benefits of carbon fiber are real. Again, like, dude, it
just didn't work, and then he's like, excellent, exactly what I was hoping for.
It worked!
No, listen, guys, here's the thing. It wasn't even supposed to work. That's why I did it in the first place, because I was trying to blow the thing up.
Yeah. And I mean, this doesn't even get into how apparently the carbon fiber he got from, like, I think it was Lockheed Martin, because it was carbon fiber that was too old for them to continue using in, like, aircraft and shit. So he bought, like, discount from them. Like, the fucking dude.
I don't even like to buy the fucking meat at the store that they're like, you gotta cook this today. That's why it's so cheap. I don't even buy that. So, like... I don't understand. I just don't.
He's buying the fucking carbon.
Here's the thing. I think you have to be poor to be too smart to get into one of these things. I think that when you're this rich, you're too out of the fucking loop.
You know a con man when you see one at this point.
Yeah,
you know
well, right, because everyone's trying to con us.
Yeah.
When you're poor, like us, your entire life is trying to navigate someone not stealing,
not having to buy something twice.
Right, because you have things to lose. Yeah. When you're rich, you just don't have things to lose, and so you lose sight of the few things that you actually could lose, like the structural integrity of your body.
Yeah, it's nuts. So, like, you see this complete and utter twist of events every time something goes wrong in the Titan from Stockton Rush. So, continuing in the article, Rush didn't even break stride. He ran right on ahead, plowing into his director of marine operations, David Lockridge. I mean, he was just fucking the shit out of him. Yeah.
David, we're making this.
Headboard against the fucking wall, you know what I'm saying? Like, but Lockridge had emigrated from Scotland to work for OceanGate, selling his home in Glasgow, moving to Washington State with his wife and 7-year-old daughter. Unlike many of his new colleagues, Lockridge was an established undersea pro, a submersible and remote-operated vehicle pilot, a marine engineer, and underwater inspector for the oil and gas industry. He piloted rescue subs for the British Navy to save men trapped aboard downed military submarines.
I just want to quickly say that as a man of Glaswegian heritage, we don't claim him.
No, you do claim this guy.
Oh, is this guy good?
Smart. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, so by January 2018, the Titan was nearly completed, soon to begin its sea trials. But first, Lockridge, who according to his contract was responsible for, quote, ensuring the safety of all crew and clients during submersible and surface operations, would have to inspect the sub and pronounce it fit to dive. And that wasn't going to happen. Lockridge had been watching the sub's progress with ratcheting alarm. He'd argued with OceanGate's engineering director, Tony Nissen. OceanGate had responded by refusing to let Lockridge examine the work on the sub's oxygen system, computer systems, acrylic viewport, O-rings, and the critical interfaces between its carbon fiber hull and titanium end caps. Mating materials with such wildly divergent pressure tolerances was also not advised. Nissen did not respond to requests for comment. When Lockridge voiced his concerns, he was ignored, so he inspected the Titan as thoroughly as he could. Then he presented Rush and other OceanGate senior staff with a 10-page quality control inspection report that listed the sub's problems and the steps needed to correct them. Verbal communication of the key items I have addressed in my attached document have been dismissed on several occasions, Lockridge wrote on the first page.
Oh, yeah, okay, we like this guy.
Yeah, so I feel now I must make this report so there is an official record in place. Basically, he's saying, these are my words, basically he's saying, yeah, these motherfuckers are getting sued. I want to make sure that I am not party to the fucking
I need there to be a
lawsuit.
written record that I said don't go in the sub.
Yeah. I'm trying to avoid the deposition that is sure to come. But back to the article. These issues, he added, were significant in nature and must be addressed. Lockridge listed more than 24 items that required immediate attention. These included missing bolts and improperly secured batteries, components zip-tied to the outside of the sub. O-ring grooves were machined incorrectly, which could allow water ingress. Seals were loose. A highly flammable petroleum-based material lined the Titan's interior. Hosing looped around the sub's exterior, creating an entanglement risk, especially at a site like the wreck of the Titanic, where spars, pipes, and wires protrude everywhere. Yet even those deficiencies paled in comparison to what Lockridge observed on the hull. The carbon fiber filament was visibly coming apart, riddled with air gaps, delaminations, and Swiss cheese holes, and there was no way to fix that short of tossing the hull in the dumpster. The manufacturing process for carbon fiber filament is exacting. Interwoven carbon fibers are wound around the cylinder and bonded with epoxy, then bagged in cellophane and cured in an oven for 7 days. The goal is perfect consistency. Any mistakes are baked in permanently.
Right.
So the article continues with Lockridge routinely suggesting safety inspections, including non-invasive or destructive ones, with Rush basically telling him to fuck off. Like scanning the fucking hull, man. It never got done.
Yeah.
It's like Rush didn't want to see the results because he knew they would be damning. Just keep chugging forward and hope it's not real. And it reminds me of the portrayal of the Chernobyl disaster in the HBO miniseries, whether or not it's historically accurate, but refusing to believe the evidence when you see it and just, like, covering your eyes.
Yeah, right, and they're just like, well, it's impossible that the reactor is
Yeah.
exploding because we couldn't create this many rontgens of energy, and then the guy comes in, he's like, I'm melting, and they're like, yeah, you can't be melting because there is no reactor explosion.
Yeah.
And it's like, so over there, it's exploding.
Yeah, we put in the rods, so it should have stopped the reaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so Lockridge filed a report to OceanGate with recommendations to improve the safety of the craft for him to sign off on it. He was fired immediately, and OceanGate sued Lockridge and his wife, who did not work at OceanGate or in the industry at all. They even threatened deportation. And now here's where shit gets good. Alright, this was just child's play before. This is where it gets fucking wicked good. So from the article. Ironically, Lockridge had saved Rush for himself at least once before. In June 2016, Rush piloted OceanGate's shallow diving sub, the Cyclops 1, to the site of the Andrea Doria, a hulking 700-foot ocean liner and epic entanglement hazard that had sunk in 1956.
Yep.
Off Nantucket, in a patch of the Atlantic known for its murky fog and seething currents. The ship lies in 240 feet of turbid water, cobwebbed with discarded fishing lines. At that depth, it is accessible, and just barely, to advanced scuba divers, 18 of whom have died there. Rush was headed down to capture sonar images of the shipwreck with Lockridge and 3 clients. Word gets around in the deep-sea community. I learned what happened next from 2 sub-pilots from other companies who both told me the same story on different occasions after hearing it from OceanGate personnel. I also reviewed correspondence related to OceanGate's lawsuit against Lockridge and his wife, in which Lockridge describes the incident. Lockridge declined to be interviewed. So as chief pilot and the person responsible for operational safety, Lockridge had created a dive plan that included protocols for how to approach the wreck. Any entanglement hazard demands caution and vigilance, touching down at least 50 meters away and surveying the site before coming any closer. Rush disregarded these safety instructions. He landed too close, got tangled in the current, managed to wedge the sub beneath the Andrea Doria's crumbling bow, and descended into a full-blown panic. Lockridge tried to take the helm, but Rush had refused to let him, melting down for over an hour until finally one of the clients shrieked, "Give him the fucking controller!" At which point, Rush hurled the controller, a video game joystick, at Lockridge's head. Lockridge freed the sub in 15 minutes.
Oh my god, dude. This sounds like an absolute nightmare. Being stuck in a little thing with just a man-child, having a full-blown tantrum. Who's like, I'd rather we all die! And then finally the guy's like,
admit I fucked up.
Just give me the fucking controller. Yeah. Oh my god, he must have felt like such a loser.
Yeah.
That's why he had to go to the Titanic.
Yeah. So the expedition had been planned to include 10 dives, but instead it ended abruptly with OceanGate citing, quote, adverse weather conditions.
Yeah.
After returning to shore in Boston, Rush held a press conference. We were able to view the Andrea Doria area for nearly 4 hours because they were stuck.
Yeah. We had a good view of it.
Yeah. Oh, just wait. Which is more than 10 times longer than scuba divers can, he announced. The dive, OceanGate's website noted, had focused on the bow of the vessel, which they were stuck underneath because of this guy. Again, just spinning it. Like, oh my god, dude.
Yeah, this guy rocks. He fucking rocks.
It had been focused on the bow of the vessel.
Are you wearing your Hill Farmstead
shirt? As this dude's melting down. What?
Are you wearing your Hill Farmstead shirt?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Dude, just, oh my god. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
dude.
Fucking wild.
I love this, man.
Fucking wild.
I love
I didn't know about this tantrum under the Andrea Doria.
Yeah, this was from reporting in this article. This is why, dude. This is why this article immediately just like reignited my love.
Yeah.
For this event.
Yeah, this is a fucking hit piece. She's absolutely dunking on this guy.
Oh yeah, posterizing this idiot and his dumbass fucking clients. Like, dude, oh my god. Well, I guess maybe not the clients so much. Although there is a long section on that guy. Was it PH Arnargelet or whatever his name is? Who was the guy who should have known better and still got into this thing?
Yeah. And
got himself imploded. So Susan Casey even talks about how the Titan had a system in place, advertised by Rush, that warned acoustically when the submersible was nearing implosion. There were, quote, very specific snapping sounds. There's no other acoustic hull monitoring system in the world. True, writes Casey. No other deep-sea submersible in the world had such a system, because no other deep-sea sub needed one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all made out of fucking steel, dude. They don't crack like that.
Yeah.
So going back to the article, fortunately, I knew enough to speak to a few people before I got anywhere near the Titan. One phone call was all it took. Terry Kirby, the veteran chief... That's funny. The veteran chief pilot of the University of Hawaii's 2 deep-sea subs, the Pisces 4 and the Pisces 5, recoiled when I asked him what he thought about OceanGate. Be careful of that, he warned. That guy has the whole submersible community really concerned. He's just basically ignoring all the major engineering rules. He paused to make sure this had sunk in, and then added emphatically, do not get into that sub. He is going to have a major accident.
Jesus Christ. So everybody that knew what they were talking about was just watching this guy like, yo, this dude's gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
He's going to die.
And he's
down
going
there,
to kill people.
Yeah.
I mean, James Cameron said the same thing when he was interviewed by like CNN right after it happened. He was like, dude, we have all been saying this for years. That they are going to have an incident where they kill people. Yeah. So continuing later in the article. On the Titan's second deep test dive in April 2019, an attempt to reach 4,000 meters in the Bahamas, the sub protested with such blood-curdling cracking and gunshot noises that its descent was halted at 3760 meters. Rush was the pilot, and he had taken 3 passengers on this highly risky plunge. One of them was Carl Stanley, a seasoned submersible pilot, who would later describe the noises as the hull yelling at you. Stanley was no stranger to risk. He'd built his own experimental unclassed sub and operated it in Honduras. But even he was so rattled by the dive that he wrote several emails to Rush urging him to postpone the Titan's commercial debut, less than 2 months away.
So even this other idiot was like, dude, get that fucking thing out.
Yeah, even this other dumb shit was just like, dude, you're being a dumb fucking shit.
Yeah.
The carbon fiber was breaking down, Stanley believed. I think that hull has a defect near that flange that will only get worse. The only question in my mind is, will it fail catastrophically or not? He advised Rush to step back and conduct 50 unmanned test dives before any other humans got into the sub. True to form, Rush dismissed the advice. One experiential data point is not sufficient to determine the integrity of the hull, telling Stanley to, quote, keep your opinions to yourself. I remember him saying at one point to me that one of the reasons why he had me on that dive was he expected that I would be able to keep my mouth shut about anything that was of a sensitive nature, Stanley told me in a phone interview. Like what? I asked. I don't think he wanted everybody knowing about the cracking sounds. Shortly after that, Rush did make an accommodation to reality. He sent out a press release heralding the Titan's history-making deep-sea dive to 3760 meters with 4 crew members, and then a month later canceled the 2019 Titanic expedition. He had previously scrubbed the 2018 expedition, claiming that the Titan had been hit by lightning. Now, Rush was off to build a new hull. Like, what? It was hit by lightning?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I worked with a guy for a while who claimed that he was struck by lightning. So he was, like, legendary. He would find ways to, like, get himself out of work and stuff. And, you know, I've had my run-ins with that when I was struggling with things, whatever, but...
Yeah.
He always just had, like, insane reasons, and once he was like, I came back from walking my dog, and there had been a thunderstorm, and I felt strange, and I think I must have been hit by lightning. But so he was like, you know, I don't want to, like, give too much away, but, he was like, I think I must have been struck by lightning, and everyone was like, hey, man, that's not the sort of thing that you're on the fence about. Like, if you get hit by lightning, you know that it happened, and if you don't know... someone in your immediate vicinity knows, and they'll let you know. But like you're just hungover. You know what I mean?
You can just say that
you did not get hit by lightning.
Yeah,
my friend.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean the article just keeps going and going with this kind of thing, event after event, basically signaling that the shit is going to pop and implode one of these days, and Rush just telling everyone to fuck off, and that they're trying to cancel his design.
You guys just don't want me to have any fun, and it sucks.
Alright, and now continuing. So, when the world learned of the Titan's disappearance on June 18th, no one I know in deep-sea circles believed that it was simply lost, floating somewhere, unseen because the mind reels. It didn't have an emergency beacon. No one believed that its passengers were slowly running out of oxygen. If the sub were entangled amid the Titanic wreck, that wouldn't explain why its tracking and communication signals had vanished simultaneously at 3,347 meters. The fear was collapse, Leahy said bluntly. The fear was always pressure hull failure with that craft. But the families didn't know, and the public didn't know, and it would be ghastly not to hope for some slim chance of survival, some possible miracle. But which was better to hope for, that they perished in an implosion at supersonic speed, or that they were alive with hardly a chance of being found, left to suffocate for 4 days in a sub that had all the comforts of an MRI machine?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. When I found out that they were bolted in, Kirby told me, his voice anguished, they couldn't even evacuate and fire a flare. You know there's a really good reason for those hatch towers. It gives everyone a chance to make it out. Again, so just my side again. Remember, they bolted the outside. Like bolt.
Yeah.
They bolted you in. The lack of the hatch and the OceanGate design was a serious deviation from any and all submersible design safety regulations that exist today, Conan wrote in an email. Seconding Kirby, all subs need to have hatches.
Every vehicle should have a door in it.
Yeah. Speaking, we were talking about Elon earlier, the fucking Teslas that just lock you in when they get caught on fire because the battery explodes.
Right.
Oh,
goodness.
God. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. This is such an absurd story.
It was
an absurd story without all these details, but like,
yeah.
Oh my God!
Just,
it just
dude,
makes it 10
just
times worse.
Again, like how the author, she puts it right there, floating somewhere unseen because the mind reels. It didn't have an emergency beacon.
Yeah, like an analog, like something that literally just lights up so that people can say, hey, there they are. Just like not even that.
Just lets out some little sonar, or whatever, saying, letting people know where you are. Yeah. No, there's none of that. Yeah. There's only the connection to the mothership, and if that goes, that's it.
This guy had such an unbelievable amount of faith that his bad idea just would never fail. Like, there was just no need for any kind of contingency plan because, no, it will just work forever, and it will just.
It's worked to this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't fucking boiled my blood in an implosion yet.
Yeah.
Ugh. Fucking.
Ocean man, take me by the hand, lead me to the land that you understand. Ocean man, the voyage to the corner of the globe is a real trip. Ocean man, the crust of the tan man by the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man, can you see through the wonder of amazement at the open man? Ocean man, the crust is elusive when it casts forth to the childlike man. Ocean man, the sequence of a life form raised in the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man. Ocean man. Ocean man. Ocean man, take me by the hand, lead me to the land that you understand. Ocean man, the voyage to the corner of the globe is a real trip. Ocean man, the crust of a tan man by the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man, can you see through the wonder of amazement at the open man? Ocean man, the crust is elusive when it casts forth to the childlike man. Ocean man, the sequence of a life form raised in the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man.
So, it is just fucking nuts. Like, the story rules. It's so good. I love it. And now, unfortunately, we have to go to a very uncool story, which is the final voyage of the Nautilus. And this comes from, so this was quoted, this story, in the Vanity Fair article that I just read. And it led me to the story of the Nautilus 6 years ago, wherein another renegade designer, Peter Madsen, developed and piloted a 58-foot submarine. And therein, and I will give a content warning here, murdered and dismembered a female journalist he had invited on board. And apparently during the investigation, it was discovered that he had been harboring some predilections towards violence against women. And, total speculation on my part, maybe this not being the first time he used his sub for this reason. This is from a Wired. This is from the Wired article, "The Final Terrible Voyage of the Nautilus" by Mei Zhang. And I was even, there's a few instances of like these deep sea kind of just gruesome deep sea events. But this is just another one because Peter Madsen seems a lot like a Stockton Rush kind of guy.
Yeah,
I wanted to talk about it. So yeah. So Kim Wall was a freelance journalist. And she was aiming to write a book on extreme machines as a freelance journalist when she learned about rival Danish rocket makers Peter Madsen and Christian von Bengtsen, the latter being a former NASA contractor. So at the time of her meeting with Madsen, Wall was engaged to her partner Ulla Stobe. Now, Wall finally got a text on one of her last nights in town in Denmark at a going-away party with her fiancé. They were engaged to be married. And they were, she was, I think they were both from Denmark. Or no, she was from Sweden, he was from Denmark. But they were with some like friends and family and all that. So Peter Madsen sends her a text, invites her onto his submarine in order to get her interview that she had been asking for. She asked her fiancé Stoba to come with, but as they had the group assembled, he decided to stay behind. So she boarded the submarine at 7 p.m. and texted a picture to Stoba, and then sent photos of windmills in the water and another of herself at the steering wheel. They even sailed by the party and waved to Stoba aboard the submarine, and that was the last time Stoba would see Wall, his fiancé.
Ugh.
So, like Rush, Madsen was a rebel who routinely attempted unsafe things during his innovations, even dating back to a young age. He was another, rich asshole. And he was, involved in, clubs making rockets and shit like that when he was young that would, scare of the rocket makers because of how unsafe they were. And he also just so happened to idolize Werner von Braun, the Nazi aerospace engineer that the U.S. hired to help develop the Apollo missions. And that's not his only enjoyment with Nazis, let's just say. Madsen was apparently a frequent guest at sexual fetish communities and also routinely hired escorts. He apparently routinely also used his submarine to lure women for sex. So later in the night of Wall's disappearance, Stoba was worried because they were supposed to leave for a wedding early in the morning, and he obviously had not heard from her. He waited by the pier, then went back to his room, tried to sleep, and then grabbed his bike and rode around the island searching for her. He called the police just before 2 a.m., and later he called the Navy as Wall was missing. Just before 4 a.m., police were notified of a possible accident by the local Maritime Rescue Center. Helicopters and ships scouted the waters, and the Nautilus was discovered in a desolate stretch of coastline near a lighthouse. Madsen was seen in the submarine tower by a man helping in the search. He saw Madsen go down the tower and re-emerge from the hatch as the sub sank. Madsen claimed a defect in the ballast tank caused it to sink. So from the article, Stoba was at the deck where the press had gathered that morning as Madsen gave his thumbs up. He knew that something was off and braced for the worst. Still, he wasn't prepared for what was to come. Later that day, the police put out a statement saying that Madsen had told them that he had dropped off Wall on the tip of the island. The police clearly did not believe him. They arrested him and charged him with involuntary manslaughter for having killed, in an unknown way, in an unknown place, Kim Isabel Fredrika Wall of Sweden sometime after Thursday 5 p.m. The next day, a Saturday, Madsen appeared in court at a closed-door session. He hadn't dropped Wall off on the island. She died in an accident on board the submarine, he said. His story was changing. A hatch had fallen on her head, and he panicked, he would claim. He said he dragged her body out of the submarine by a rope and buried her at sea.
Yeah, buried at sea that's a stretch.
Yeah.
He dumped her. He dumped her.
Yeah. Well, no, not quite. Yeah.
No, I know,
so
but that's
on
what
August
he's
20,
saying.
Yeah. On August 21st, a cyclist riding along on Amager Island, not far from where the submarine sank, came across a torso that had washed ashore. The next day, DNA analysis confirmed that the torso belonged to Wall. On September 5th, a court approved the prosecutor's request to change the charge against Madsen to manslaughter. An autopsy later revealed that she had been stabbed 15 times in and around her vagina. Then, 1 month later, divers found her head, clothing, and a knife in plastic bags in the waters not far from where her torso was found. They also found both her legs tied to pieces of metal. Despite these discoveries, Madsen stuck to his story. Wall had hit her head and died, and he disposed of her body, but he denied killing her or dismembering her. Even after divers found a saw that might have been used to dismember Wall's body, even after the police searched Madsen's computer and discovered videos that appeared to show a woman being strangled, decapitated, and tortured, he stuck to his story. People then started telling stories about Madsen after his arrest, indicating some very concerning behavior. From the article, others re-examined old incidents and behaviors. Madsen could swing between rage and euphoria. One volunteer at Copenhagen Suborbitals told me that if something did not please Madsen, he would behave like a child who just lost his toy or dropped his ice cream or something. When his mood turned, most people would know what was going to happen, so they would stay away from him before stuff started flying. Volunteers said Madsen threw hammers, screwdrivers, and other tools. One volunteer, who asked to be identified by his initials, SW, helped build the Nautilus. He recalled how Madsen would go from being supportive to pensive, jubilant, exasperating, and sarcastic. It's hard for us to understand what drives a madman because we are not mad, Falkenberg told me. He then described a recurring joke. Madsen would pretend to be a violent Nazi and would mime hitting Falkenberg saying, "Should I punch you in the kidneys?" Or Madsen might joke, "What if I inject battery acid into your veins?" There was also a lot of joking around about Nazis in the workshop. Crew members called each other by Nazi-inspired nicknames. Madsen was called Kaleun for Capital Lieutenant, a nod to the 1981 film Das Boot about a fictional German U-boat unit during World War II, Falkenberg said. When they went out in the sub, the crew spoke German, reciting lines from the film. Yeah, so generally speaking, if you can't stop joking around about Nazis and pretending to be a Nazi and making Nazi references, in my personal opinion, you're probably a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Yeah. Like, if you, like, dress up like a Nazi and make Nazi jokes and say, like, hey, can you call me this Nazi name? Like, I don't think it's...
And you say it all in German?
Yeah, and you speak German when you do this. Just gonna say, it might be more than irony. But yeah, he apparently routinely showed admiration for the Third Reich and its regime, always as these fucking Nazi fucking pieces of shit. I'm sure we've all met them before.
You called them
like, Veribus sickos. Yeah, Veribus sickos. You know, they'll say things that like, well, what the Nazis, some of what the Nazis did were in excess, and I don't agree with that. But there was good done as well. Yeah, you know that person's a fucking Nazi.
Yeah. And
they're trying to fucking wash Nazi ideology to make it seem less, I don't know, like they're a fucking Nazi. But, yeah, so, again from the article, on October 30th, the Copenhagen police reported that Madsen had changed his account of that night in August yet again. He said Kim might have died from carbon monoxide poisoning. He also admitted to dismembering her body. 3 weeks later, the police found an arm in Koga Bay, weighed down with pipes. 8 days after that, they found another arm. Madsen's lawyer, Bettina Hald Engmark, declined to comment for the story. And further down in the article, on January 16th, the police released a statement announcing that Madsen was being indicted for homicide that took place with prior planning and preparation, and also charged him with sexual relations other than intercourse of a particularly dangerous nature, as well as for dismemberment. A week later, the full indictment provided more excruciating details. Madsen had brought on board a saw, knife, sharpened screwdrivers, straps, zip ties, and pipes. Madsen had bound, beaten, and stabbed Kim before killing her, possibly by choking or cutting her throat, the indictment said. Madsen's lawyer told the New York Times that she was puzzled by the indictment. The case is scheduled to go to trial on March 8th, with a verdict expected in April. This is an older article. In between is March 23rd, which would have been Kim's 31st birthday. Ugh. During the trial, it came out that Madsen had, as I said before, videos on his computer of women being murdered, and people claim that Madsen would routinely watch videos of decapitations. And his prison time has included being assaulted by a younger inmate, having a relationship with a female guard, and a briefly successful escape before being redetained.
Here's what I'm going to say. I believe in humane imprisonment, right? I do. And in a lot of ways, the Scandinavian countries are like at the forefront of that. But I've heard so many stories about people just fucking escaping from prison there. Like Varg Vikernes, he fucking escaped from prison. And he admitted to killing a guy.
His room looked nicer than our UMass Dartmouth dorms.
I remember us having that conversation because we watched, was it When the Light Takes Us that he was in? What's the documentary that when he was still in prison?
Yeah, it's When the Light Takes Us, yeah.
And he...
it's basically Fenris.
Yeah, he had like a Sega Genesis in there and like... Yeah. This shit was tight.
It was like a nice looking room.
It was clean.
And I think the Scandinavian, they do it better than here in America.
There are a lot of good things, and I'm not going to sit here and defend the U.S. Prison industrial complex because it's the fucking worst. People are treated inhumanely, whatever. But I mean, geez, la fucking wheeze, like... Yeah, it's too many fucking people breaking out.
Yeah,
there's got to be
and
like
also,
some
why
middle
would you
ground.
want to break out? That sounds like
oh my god, it sounds great.
It doesn't even look that bad.
Here's the thing: we're thinking of it like normal people who aren't into murdering. Those people want to get out because they can't do their hobby.
They want to murder. Yeah. They can't chop up people. But that's so again, this is total speculation on my part. I don't have to say allegedly for anything else because you got fucking, you went to prison for this shit. I will say that I'm completely speculating, but the fact that he had a kill kit on that sub and was known for luring women there, and that like women, like there are like brutal murders in that area in Denmark, I have to wonder if that was the first time he did it.
Yeah, maybe it was the first time in the sub, but
well, no, I'm saying
if that wasn't his MO, dude, what a rich guy way to be a fucking murderer.
To lure women to your sub.
Couldn't even be in like his old station wagon.
And then he just did it one time to a reporter who everybody knew that she was there.
Yeah.
and was texting people from there.
Yeah, he got too lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend was going to go. What would he have done then? Tried to kill them both?
Yeah. Seriously, like... But anyway, yeah.
What a fucking monster, dude.
Yeah. Like, really, yeah, the article's fucking brutal, man. There's a lot of, like, rancid shit about this guy.
Well, he looks like a fucking freak, too.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
He doesn't look good.
Yeah. But anyway, and, you know, I was even going to talk a bit about this, like, also this other event, about, like, people who do, like, deep-sea diving for, like oil rigs. And, like, where they have to, like, spend a week in decompression chambers every, like, I think it's, like, 100 meters that they go down or something like that. Mm-hmm. And there was this one event where a mistake was made where they accidentally opened up the chamber to the actual, like, pressure outside of it to the water, and people got sucked out and, like, their intestines, like, pulled out of them.
Yeah.
And shit.
Yeah. They'll come out of your mouth and your anus. Yeah.
Yeah, there's, like, a famous story of, like, a whole crew of divers who died because, like, they accidentally, like, depressurized the chamber.
Yeah.
As they were, like, going down. So it's, like, a whole month that you have to spend going down and then coming back up. And, yeah, these people just got, like, one dude got pulled through a hole, like, 6 inches wide, I think, or something like that, diameter. Like, his whole body got pulled through it. Brutal shit. But anyway, I decided not to do that.
Yeah. So we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, that's a fucked up little postscript to it's a much more fucked up submarine story.
Yeah, that's not a fun one.
No,
the first one's fun.
The first one's and this one's not.
No, but yeah, got some pressure madness going on.
Yeah.
Oh.
One thing I want to mention before I forget, which isn't related to any of this stuff, but just at some point I wanted to say it. And we obviously aren't getting any kind of reward for saying this sort of thing, but a show that I think Evan and I are both like massively inspired by, and sort of one of the first shows I think that we both really like geeked out on, Blowback. Season 4 is out now, and I really cannot recommend enough that you guys go. I think they charge you $25 for a year's access, and every new season that comes out, so it's $25. You get all the episodes and 10 bonus episodes. Show fucking rules, and this season is about the history of colonialism in Afghanistan, culminating with all the lovely modern developments there. And those guys just really, 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 really do the hell out of that fucking show. And I think it's the best in the game. And I don't know. I just wanted to shout it out and say I think you guys should all go listen to it. My guess is that people that listen to the show probably are already on that. But if you're if you're someone who listens to our show and you're just like, oh, this is cool, dude, that is the sort of thing that like Evan and I listen to, and we're like, Jesus Christ. Even I was listening to it just from like a production standpoint. The way that they intro the first episode of season 4 of that show, so well done. And anyway, that's all. Just wanted to mention it.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a love of Afghanistan too. I learned that since college with my Brian Glenn Williams classes, which was very funny. I will mention I've heard Brian Glenn Williams' name brought up before in other podcasts, including like very popular ones about blowback from Afghanistan and all that kind of shit. I'm just like, I personally know that man.
I wonder if he'll come up in this one.
I'm not sure. I heard him mentioned on TrueAnon once when they were doing a Boston Marathon bombing one, because we went to fucking college with Jahar Zarnaev.
Yeah.
But although I didn't know him, I never even had a class with him. But yeah,
he did. I mean, he did work for the CIA.
Oh yeah, Brian Williams. Yeah. No, he 100% did.
Yeah.
I had a seminar on terrorism with him, and although still to this day, I have yet to hear a single podcast say Gulbuddin Hekmachar's name right. Which, I mean, that's how Brian Glenn Williams had pictures of himself with Abdul Rashid Dostum.
Yeah.
Like, holding fucking AKs, and, like, told me a story about him drinking the fermented horse milk with Dostum and shit. But, yeah, like, I had, like, a terrorism seminar with him, and I did my, that seminar on Gulbuddin Hekmachar's terrorist cell, Hizbi Islami Gulbuddin.
Brian Williams was actually my advisor for the entirety of my time at UMass Dartmouth, and I think I met him once.
Yeah.
I was the worst college student of all time. I think, like, my sophomore or junior year, I finally made an appointment with him. He was like, have I been your advisor this whole time? And I was like, yeah, dude. And he's like, so how's it going? I was like, no fucking clue.
Not good, dude.
No, actually, but here's the thing. I just winged it. And so by the end, it was going well. Like, my grades, my for at least the second half or the second two-thirds of my college career were good. But that first year was enough. It dragged my GPA way down. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to bring it back up.
Yeah, I know. My first semester, I had like a 2-point like fucking something GPA, and like the rest of my college career, I think it was for the most part above 3.2, but I still only graduated with like a 3.2, something like that.
Yeah, I graduated with.
It was just like, damn, dude, that one fucking semester like dragged me down that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I graduated around the same point.
Yeah.
Low threes, but my first year was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
But whatever. Hey, got that degree, dog. No one gives a shit about that GPA.
And I got them stupid yellow tassels, too, for cum laude.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't magna or summa, but I was just regular cum.
You did cum loudly?
Yeah, I did cum loudly, yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, man. It's so easy to hit an hour on this show. It really is.
Yeah.
That was great. I am so fucking... I don't know. It's just such a fascinating, not just story, but like the idea of like being the type of guy that would wind up at the center of a story like that. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's like you make it to that point. You've got the success that everybody's hoping for, the money and shit. And so you're just like, how could I fucking add drama to my life? Because it's boring now. It's boring not having to worry about anything. So... how do I, and you find ways, you know, and sometimes you do it in ways that are dangerous but not too crazy, like maybe you get into skydiving. Okay, that's, you know, there's a certain level of insanity to that, but there's also like a tried and true method there. But then other times it's like, that's not enough. I gotta fucking go to the Titanic. And they're like, cool, well, you're rich enough. You could go. We've got these subs. If you give us a grant.
Like, no, I want to go with the con man.
I want to make a sub. And they're like, but you don't know how to make a sub. You could hire...
And he's like, yeah, but I've got the septic tank. That could probably go
You could hire a guy who knows. He's like, no. That's the thing. I don't like any of those guys. They're all dickwads. So I'm just going to do it.
They were all pussies.
Oh, my God. And they're like, oh, but you're gonna at least like follow the regulations, right? He's like, no. Regulations are stupid.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it.
And then I'm going to charge people $250,000 and turn them into putty.
Yeah, man. Jesus, just jump out of a plane. Go fucking, you know, give James Cameron $1 million. I bet he'll take you down. You put that money towards something important, you know?
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. It's wild.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Look at the Deep Sea Challenger. That shit's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And that's to go down to the Challenger Deep, you know, in the Mariana Trench.
Yeah. Deep Sea Challenger. It's just a cylinder.
Yeah, it's just like this huge cylinder, yeah. Like, he tells a story one time of going down there and, like, all the systems, like, stop working for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And, like, he's having, like, trouble, like, getting his bearings. And he's like, oh, fuck. This isn't great. But
yeah,
anyway.
So he's sitting in a perfect sphere.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. All right, well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Dear listeners, as always, we spread by word of mouth, so please tell people about us, tell your friends, tell your family members, tell your coworkers, tell anybody. And also, if you enjoy the show, please rate and review on iTunes. You can rate it on Spotify or the podcast player of your choosing, whichever one you use. And with that note, we will see you in the Mariana Trench.
Yeah. That's what I call my butthole. Bye.
We'll see you there.